Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have another show lineup for y'all. Today, we have our special guest, Robert J. Wolf, MD. He has a book that we're going to be discussing, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom, Holocaust survivor true stories. You can get this book on Amazon, but better yet, go to his website. He has a website as well. It's robertjwolfmd.com. We're going to learn all about the inspiration of him writing this book and learn behind the scenes of the project. But without further ado, I just want to welcome you to the show and say, how you doing, man?
I'm well, thank you, and appreciate you having me on. I'm much appreciated. It's a small world. We just came to find out we're from the same area in Michigan, which is great. So
really close, man. So
I'm very honored. I appreciate it. You've got a nice looking dossier in history, so I feel grateful to have me on here. So.
No, I appreciate it, man. As professionals, we know that time is something that is very valuable. So I appreciate you clearing the calendar to talk to our audience. Before we dive deeply into your book title that I just gave moments ago, kind of give the audience a little bit of a background of your professional career, and then we'll get right into the book.
Well, I'm Rob Wolf. I'm a recently retired radiologist. I've been a radiologist. I've been in the field for 35 years. Just retired. I worked part time for about the last 19 years, so I'm fortunate enough to do that. Prevented burnout by doing that. But born and raised in the Detroit area, K through 12 in a small suburb called Mount Clemens. Great place to grow up. I was one of 3 Jewish people in my high school. It was 40% African American. It was a subset of Detroit. Never felt racism or anti-Semitism back in the day. We did a lot of trash talking and BSing around, but we left it all on the football field. That's how it was. And then went to college at Tufts, very fortunate to be able to go there, and the University of Michigan Medical School. And then I trained, I did a year internship at Boston University affiliate, then called Framingham Union Hospital, now Metro West. And then Brown for radiology and Yale for neuroradiology. So very fortunate to have that kind of education and training. I led up to my parents and my background, and so 30 years of indentured servantry, finally get some jobs and moved around a little bit, back to Flint, Michigan even, kind of bounced all over, but pretty good career, I guess. And so 44 years all in, when all said and done. Half my life in New England, half my life in Michigan, and now I've been down here in Southern Florida for 6 years now. About the same amount of time I've been working on the book, and we'll get to that in a minute. I also like sports, music, fitness, golf, dancing, travel, education, investing, history. I'm into a lot of things too. So, but what I'm doing now, fighting anti-Semitism and trying to spread the word through my dad's stories is my charge. And that's what I've been doing mostly for the past 2 to 6 years.
I appreciate you giving the audience a good lens to look through. So I appreciate you sharing this story with the audience, if you can. When you look at the origins from your father and the purpose behind the project, what inspired you to get it published at the time you did?
Well, can I show the book real quick? Or so not a real enemy. Wrong direction. Sorry. Trying to get the glare off. It's won 4 awards, and I don't even know what that means. I'm not the type to pat myself on the back, but it does mean something. People in the know, people that know that it's important work and it's good quality work. And I'm grateful to my co-author and publisher and the whole team about that too, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't even be here talking about it. So that said, and then it also doesn't mean anything if the awards or the book or the messages don't generate a movement against anti-Semitism. Really doesn't mean much. But that said, I was inspired. My dad wrote his autobiography in the 70s, went from paper and pencil to typewriter to computer to disc. This is in the 70s. So, and they were talking about things from his childhood in the 20s and even back to the end of World War I, where his dad, a dentist, was a captain on a Red Cross ship in World War I. So it goes that far back. So we cover the history of Hungary too, besides my dad's biography. So the end of, basically late teens, 19 teens to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. It's an adventure, as there are 20 miracles in the book. So that was inspiring enough. My dad had 4 escapes. He missed an escape. That was a miracle because everybody who made that escape, the correct train station, got arrested. It's a little teaser there. But reading these stories, finally I read it in a manuscript maybe 30 years ago. Didn't think much of it except for his first escape. Flash forward 1997, my dad passes away, unfortunately. 2016, my mom passes away. A historian friend of the family hands me the disc, and she says, "You got to look at this." So it took another year or two because I was busy with my mom's affairs, and then I retired for a year. Then a friend of mine, a fellow radiologist, former partner, asked for some help. They were short radiologists in Michigan, so I went back to work. And as a radiologist, on the left screen, we have the patient view, the list, and on the right screen, we have the images. So between cases, I loaded up my dad's story, and the autobiography was on the left, and the biography was on the right. And I was just reading the messages. You get the message right away, anti-Semitism. There's no sugarcoating in this book. There's humor, there's sadness. There's times, many days I cried, many days I had to walk away from the book for a week or so just because of the tragic stories. It was very heartwarming and heartfelt, and a labor of love, and motivation was there once I got going. And if you knew me 6 years ago, my mom and dad were Holocaust educators, and like me, they were very diversified. I like rock and roll, they like classical music, but apart from that, theater and education and museums and travel. But they educated about history and the Holocaust and Hungary, communist Hungary as well. So like that, I just kind of, I guess I got the zap, I got the bug. Superman's kryptonite. It just kind of summoned me, I guess. Kind of a corny way to talk about it, but that's the best analogy I can give. It's got the visual. So, and here we are. I mean, now this is my charge, my mission. That's all I'm doing, fighting anti-Semitism, sharing my dad's stories, and we're busy doing it. I've got the Long Island Memorial. I want to get this right. It's the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County in Long Island. So I've got a book presentation coming up there. My first university coming up, University of South Carolina. That's very exciting. Hopefully I get a lot of those. And I've done a lot of podcasts, as you have, TV interviews, and book presentations. So this is what I do. And I enjoy it. It's hard work sometimes. It can get you down sometimes. You get burnt out from that too. But it's an important message. And hopefully over time, we can help reduce the hatred that's out there by educating people.
Once again, listening to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Robert J. Wolf, MD. Go to his website, robertjwolfmd.com. We're talking about his book that you can get on Amazon or his website. Go to Amazon and type in Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom, Holocaust survivor true stories. And I want to ask about the research and all that it took for you to piece together the details of your dad's story, because everyone's journey is something that we all have a chance to share our story, but it's always a special task, right? You have the responsibility to get all the pieces together. What was your game plan to kind of get all the pieces together?
Well, mom and dad made it easy, and they did it like they knew that I would be doing this. And don't you hate it when your parents are right? But he wrote the stories as though they happened yesterday. The smells, the sounds, the way the table was set, the music, the culture, the food, the fear. So that was all you feel it, and so it was an easy convert from autobiography to biography. But the hard part was selling it. The hard part was finding an agent, finding a publisher. And, so 20 edits later. So the research, I did a lot of research. I looked at a lot of photos. I had to verify what my dad said. And then my co-author, Janice Harper, did the same thing. I wasn't getting anywhere with my queries. So a beta reader suggested having Janice read it, and she offered to help co-write it, co-author it. So I let her take on the project. So that was a year and change. So she did her homework, history and otherwise. Again, the culture, the music, the way people talked. And when we were finally done, we queried agents and publishers, and we bottom of the ninth, shoestring catch. We got Amsterdam publishers. It's all they do is Holocaust-related books, although a lot of them have different spins. Like ours covers communist Hungary. Some people talk about music and the Holocaust. Some people talk about escapes, people fighting for multiple countries in the same war, that kind of thing. So they'll have little. But we got her. We Amsterdam publishers took us on. And of course, they did the editing. And before we put it in print, we had it verified by a historian who had recently retired from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C. He made a lot of changes, and we adjusted them. And the three excellent testimonials we have from different professors including Michael Berenbaum, who was the consulting professor in the Shoah movie done by Spielberg in the 1990s. So they all had their little 2 cents to chip in too about where the history should be tweaked a little bit. So that was a lot of that. Photographs, reading up on the era, a combination of the team doing it. And it's nice that way, because if something gets missed by somebody, then hopefully somebody else picks it up. So it does take a lot of research for a book like this, no doubt. Even when you have the manuscript like right there for you, you're converting it from A to B, autobiography to bio. But Janice turned into a special bio, converging stories, parallel stories, conversations to and for each other, letters to and from home, things in and out of order. She really helped me make the book much 100% better. So, and research part of it, and just my dad's stories is the other part of it. I mean,
when you look at speaking of parallel, when you look at parallels between events of today, do you see maybe similar issues that are arising in the political world compared to your dad's personal story?
Well, like we say in our, I know it comes up. It's a great question. I mean, what does 80, 100 years ago have to do with now? And like my parents wrote this, like knowing that this would be that anti-Semitism and racism would continue to rear its ugly head, and they were right. So October 7th, we can go back to Exodus. We can talk about 400 years of slavery, and the Jews weren't the only ones who had bad treatment. We can talk about the Spanish Inquisition and the Black Plague and all the horrible times that the people did, all the horrible ways that people killed each other and tortured each other. And that's the sad thing to me, is that people are finding more and more ways to do that, even through today. And it's disgusting. I mean, it's not what I was trained for, because I'm an anatomist. I'm a guy we're into keeping the quality of life and saving lives. And we understand the beauty of the cell, the beauty of the anatomy, not just in humans, but other animals, and how people just take it away like that. They don't care about the value of human life. It's just gone. And nobody has the right to do that. Nobody has the right to, tell me what religion to explore, or where I should work, where I should stand. And all of that happened. That persecution slowly happened in Hungary, starting in 1933. Limited rights, limited ability to work and shop. Couldn't own a radio. But my dad's father was defiant. He got the BBC News when he could, snuck the radio. Very risky behavior. And then it got worse over time. Finally, they started. They couldn't let you work, of course, and then they started corralling Jews in Hungary in 1943, 44, especially, and with a very, very rapid pace as the war approached an end. The Nazis were systematic. They were determined to kill as many people as they could. And what I've read, at that point in time, the Nazis were losing badly. And 1942 was the same thing, where there was a huge percentage, a huge truckload, so to speak, of people that were being carted off and murdered. So if you weren't murdered, you were slave labor, like my dad. And he escaped from 2 forced labor camps. He was 21, 22, so he was useful. And that saved his life, probably. Meanwhile, his parents perished at Auschwitz while he was away. It took him months to find out what happened to him. Another miracle, an eyewitness told him what had happened to them. So short of, we don't see Hamas flags and armored trucks and cars going down the streets here in Florida or up or where you are. But if we did have that, I think people would be a lot more concerned, a lot more involved. And that's kind of how it was then. But, buyer beware. What happened to my dad could happen to any one of us. And that's a point I always like to make. One day you're doing okay, and the next day it could be a bad neighbor, a bad government, local government, federal government, foreign government, natural disaster. But you could be on the run, not knowing where you're going to eat, where you're going to work, sleep. And I guess the other lesson is, for us, food, shelter, and clothing is not everything. It's giving back to the community. It's sharing about love and peace, and what we can try to do to educate people about that. But food, shelter, and clothing was everything to them, because that's what you were looking for. That's all you had. Everything else was taken away from you. If you weren't lucky enough to be a refugee and leave the country in time, then you're trapped for many years. And then the communists were no better to the Jewish people, and not just the Jewish people, homosexuals, LGBTQ. And when people are racist against Jewish people that are LGBTQ or African American, a lot of superstars, we've heard the stories. It's a shame. It's not good. If you're supporting Hitler's viewpoint, well, you got to realize you're next. You weren't the Aryan race and the perfect race, or whatever they thought it was. Then Jews first, but everybody else would follow, unfortunately. So, and there are stories of a lot of people that were killed that weren't Jew, disabled people, the real young. But my mom hid the whole time. Her stories weren't quite as harrowing, but she did document a few of her things. But my dad he was all over the place. Can't imagine,
Once again, you're listening to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online. Talking to our guest today, Robert J. Wolf, MD. Go to his website, robertjwolfmd.com. We're talking about his book that you can get on the website or Amazon, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom, Holocaust survivor, true stories. And next question for you is, when you mentioned earlier about the opportunity for peace and love and education, on that point, when you look at the book that you wrote on your father, put together and published, what are some ways that you believe you can continue to use this in historical discussions so that schools and leadership programs can appreciate the piece of history and opportunity to be aware of facts?
Well, we're doing it now, and I thank you for that. And I hope some of your audience reaches out and says, for one thing, reads the book. Another thing, writes a review or reaches out to me and say, wow, what a great book that is. What a great story. Some people think it should be a film or a docudrama or a series. We're actually querying producers now. It's troubling with the LA fires, unfortunately. So I've got to put things in perspective, but we are trying to reach out to other people. Now, that would really be a big thing, because a lot of people say that this could be a movie with all the 20 miracles and all the escapes and all of that. But I do want the book to be taught in the classroom. I might have mentioned earlier that I've got University of South Carolina coming up, and I think that's going to be shared with 2 or 3 campuses. So that's such a great honor and a great icebreaker. I'm also in talks with my alma mater, Yale, and I do have a lot of ideas of other schools and places. I've done a Greek Orthodox church. I've done synagogues. You've got to educate the children, but it also means educate the adults. Bring the stories and messages home, and be kind to your kids, and have your kids be kind to their friends, and it'll spread easily. So be responsible. Like I said, give back to the community. If you're bored, change your vector. Do something different. Don't be protesting in the streets. Don't be threatening other people. It's a waste of time. I mean, it's just hard for people to sympathize with that, because that kind of behavior is it's nuts. But education is the one thing. So every time I do one of these, if I touch one person's life per day or per week, or I get a notice or something that said, "Wow, this book changed the way I think," then I will have done my job. And while I still can, the health, God willing, I'll keep doing that. And I think it's working out for me. I mean, and I'm not the only one. I can't fight anti-Semitism alone. I need the help, or racism. It all kind of blends together. One person once told me, there's a difference. If you're going to query publishers, there's a difference between. I don't see the difference. I think Morgan Freeman once said it. It's always going to be the same old people. To quote him from Driving Miss Daisy. It's always going to be the same people, and it's sad. So I'm in my corner of it. I'm fighting it. It's a lot of people are joining up with this. Stop the hatred. Stop the BS. Let's just move on and live a peaceful society. And if you don't want to do that, you're welcome to leave. I mean, my parents didn't like being repressed, so they left because they weren't welcome to leave, but they left anyway. But they had to escape. That was my dad's 4th escape, finally leaving the country in '56 after the Hungarian Revolution. And not a lot of people know about that war too. It was 3,000 people died in that war, and my parents were frontliners. And the bottom line too, the punchline: my dad became an OBGYN and delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area. So that's really redemption indeed. I mean, he can't bring back his parents' life and all these other people that were killed, 50 million in total, by the way, in World War II, and all across the board. But it is some redemption, bringing lives like that into the world. And he loved doing what he did, and jovial and jolly, no PTSD. Didn't go to the bottle or drugs, and then just happy to be around and happy to be alive and doing what he loved to do. So, and that's admirable too. To me, that's a big inspiration too. So it was very self-motivating doing this project, and then talking to the kids and then the families and educating. Holocaust museums are a great experience. I could do it every day. So that's what it is. We'll get it. We're working on it.
Once again, you're listening on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Robert J. Wolf, MD. Go to his website, robertjwolfmd.com. make sure you get a copy of his book. Go there or go to Amazon and search for Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. Before we close, my last comment I want to make is a lot of times when people are witnessing hate, not all the time do they know what they should do about it. You, from your perspective, and for those who are listening, watching us, what will you suggest that someone should do when they witness hate? What's some ways that they can be active versus passive?
Well, one thing is have people like me and many other great authors do talks to help educate the community. But go to your congressman. If you think anti-Semitism is a perceived problem, then go see your senator or your congressman and say, look, I've got a neighbor that I'm worried about, or this. And same with the mental health issue. It's so underreported that that would be a good way. Be vigilant in your community. You know who a good neighbor is and who a bad neighbor is. It's not hard to tell. So I'm in a gated community here, so it's pretty peaceful. It's like I feel protected, but anyone could bust in at some time and give you a hard time. And hopefully it doesn't come to that. But if it started happening in our neighborhood, then people would start to act out. Like I said earlier, if it doesn't seem to affect you, you're less apt to contribute to the stopping of that. But if it does affect you or a neighbor or somebody you love, then you're more apt to be. I mean, I don't feel directly affected, but that could change overnight, as we've said. So this is what I'm actively doing. If you've got a story, if you've got family that's Holocaust survivors and you've got a story hiding, share the story and get help with the book. Rely on the team. It's another thing you can do. And if you're a hateful person, it'd be a great thing for people on probation or people that are committed of hate crimes to have to read 8 or 10 books like mine, and that would re-educate them too. I mean, I would hope. If it doesn't, then it is what it is. You can't change everybody, but there's hope for us. And so it's just common sense. Write a letter to the editor, that kind of thing. I mean, anything you can do to help alleviate it works.
Well, once again, you've been watching us online, listening to us on radio and podcast. I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Robert J. Wolf. Go to his website, robertjwolfmd.com. Like always, I want to say thank you for your time. And also, man, it's almost close to the weekend, so you have a good, enjoyable weekend for you.
You as well. Shabbat Shalom tomorrow, and looking forward to that Long Island trip. And God bless you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time.